Instagram was a really big thing for me as a dad. The intentional and thoughtful parenting stuff out there I thought was so inspiring. And this may sound silly, but I also thought Bluey was like amazing. And my biggest takeaway from Bluey is like commit to the bit. Whatever you're in, just be in. Because your kids don't care about time, don't care about this. Like they just want you to be all in, be silly, dance like no one's watching, just be a fool.
What's up, dads? This is the Rise and Dad podcast, a podcast in perspective on life as a dad from dads who are intentional about their fatherhood. I'm your host, Kevin Delro, and I got an amazing guest. I've been trying to get him on the podcast for a while. He's a dad of one beautiful, energetic 6-year-old girl. I'll have him tell you all about her. He's the founder of Death & Co., a high-end craft brand best known for influential cocktails, books, and hospitality. I've known him as a fun dad that likes to dress up. I've seen him put on some great parties for his daughter. And so really excited to welcome Dave to the pod. Thanks for coming, Dave.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. This is one of my favorite subjects, like most dads, I hope. And so, yeah, psyched to hang out and talk about dad life.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here too, because I know you've been on podcasts where you've talked about Death & Co., and we're still going to talk a little bit about it, but we'll get to the softer side of what you're like outside of work as a dad too.
I love it. Can't wait.
All right, so Dave, tell me just a little bit about you.
Yeah. So let's see. I was born in Chicago, raised in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which was pretty amazing. An interesting place to grow up. Grew up like on the mountain. Had no idea, the silver spoon that was kind of that I was born with. It was a pretty incredible privilege to walk out the door and ski back into the house and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Grew up outside, enjoying the mountain life, and have a mom that was really hardcore into the outdoors, and so really had her as like a guiding light and role model. And I was lucky enough to kind of follow. I actually, it's funny looking back. It's always pretty linear. But my mom always wanted to be an artist. My dad always wanted to be a chef. My dad was a businessman. My mom was a pharmacist. And I went to school for fine art. I've only worked in hospitality. So I sort of like, by I don't know, a subconscious fault of my own, ended up following both of my parents' wants or wishes and had a lot of fun becoming an artist in college. Knew that's not really what I wanted to do professionally, and followed my passion for hospitality, and shortly after graduating college, opened my first bar in New York called Death & Co., which is still open to this day. And then I've been kind of growing that ever since.
That's awesome. I love that story. And it's like you grew from just this outdoorsy kid to this big city lights in New York. I feel like, because I lived in New York too, and like we all always have these dreams of like, small town kid in the countryside, and then we're like, boom, we want to make it to the city. And it's great. It's a great story. I feel like I meet a lot of people who are like, have these just great dreams, and they go to New York and try to do that.
It's the place, and I had a really interesting experience after college. So I went to school for fine art and knew that's not what I wanted to do. The only other job that I've ever had was in hospitality, because that's what my dad encouraged me to do. So, the Psych 101 mentality, that we just want to make our parents happy. That's the career, or not career, but those are the jobs I had. And so following that passion, I moved to Las Vegas for a year, taking a job in this hospitality group that we happen to have some friends in that group. We were connected with them. And it was everything I hated. Didn't want to be there. I could not stand Las Vegas. All of my friends were in New York. And so I wanted to get back to culture, back to art. And so found my way back to New York. And the whole time I was in Las Vegas, I was just reading like how to open a bar for dummies and like, business 101 and what's a business plan, like really just trying to teach myself, educate myself to the best of my ability through this like kind of lonely process, how to kind of fulfill this dream that I had of creating my own establishment. And shortly after landing in New York, I was able to cobble it together with duct tape and glue and found a business partner that had a little bit more experience than me, and neither of us really had any clue whatsoever what we were doing, but we found a space, and yeah, we built this first bar. But yeah, we were lucky. I was lucky enough to desperately want art and culture and community, and I knew I could find that in New York, and that's really what landed me there. And I had that youthful ignorance thing, not knowing how absolutely stupid and near impossible it would be to open a business in New York. I thought it was just like, I'm literally riding a bike. I was like, I don't know. Anyone can learn this, right?
Right.
Like, you balance, you fall, you get back up, you open the business. No clue what I was doing. But
Well, I feel like a lot of businesses have start with that energy where you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. So it's like this figure it outness. I have one of my own businesses too. And I feel like I always tell people I learned through YouTube University, which is literally just watching hour-long videos of people explaining how to do something or what their experience was. And every time I have a different idea, whatever it might be, whether it's a podcast or another business or something, it's like maybe somebody has already done it and they posted a YouTube video. I want to learn from there. It really resonates where you're like, I'm going to grow something. I don't know how to do it, but I think I can figure it out,
I don't know if I would have been better served if YouTube was a thing when we started, or if that would have scared me the hell away. But yeah, either way, I was like, everything's figure outable. Like everything is figure outable. Like, and I realized the worst thing that could happen is that we would close and I would lose everything I put into it, and I would still be okay.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to what we're here to talk about today is, I had parents who were loving in their own unique ways and who were supportive. And I knew that if I was really out on my ass, I would still have my basic human needs met. I would still have food and shelter. And I recognize not everyone has that. And even then I recognized that. And I was like, well, you know what? I can afford to take this risk. I have the privilege and can afford to take this risk. And how cool is that? So what else is there to be afraid of? And, I probably should have been a little bit more afraid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wouldn't have happened. That's
it's a
great.
20-year commitment. I'm still in it. So yeah.
Yeah, but also, I mean, that's a great thing that you mentioned how you felt with your parents and their support. Because I know with my daughter, me and my wife, we hope that when she's older, she feels that way, right? That if shit hits the fan, you can come home. Or, you can come and talk to us about it. So I feel like it does speak volumes that, you were out, trying to conquer this hospitality world. And, you knew that, you knew that even, if you did fail, your parents had your back. And I think that speaks to them, however they made you feel that way, you did. So,
yeah, I was able, my dad and I specifically have really come a long way, which is amazing. We've had a tumultuous relationship, like I think a lot of kids and specifically dads do, which part of the reason why I think this podcast is great and why it's so amazing to see dads leaning in, because not every dad does. Mm-hmm. I think for my dad, it was really hard, damn near impossible for him to communicate support and love. But looking back, he really did show up in a very real way, and made me feel empowered and even encouraged to take big risks. And I was able to tell him that recently, how much it meant to me and how much I appreciated that. And yeah, it was pretty amazing. I mean, I went to school for art. I was an art school major that opened a business in New York.
Yeah.
That is I think what I would do if my kid did that, and I would have a tough time pulling my acting presence together to be like,
I support.
I believe in you. I would be like, holy, are you sure?
Yeah.
They never said, are you sure? They were like, all right. And that's amazing, man.
I love that. Amazing. Yeah, I love that. Hey, before we get into the meat of fatherhood, just a little bit more about Death & Co. Where you guys are at today, what's some new projects or something that you're working on and the future of Death & Co.
Yeah. Man, holy cow. So like we've already talked about already, kind of jumped right in. This has been 20 years along this journey. And it's been absolutely wild. So quickly, we started in New York with this little spot on 6th Street between 1st and 8th. That location is still there, still going strong. I was there just a couple nights ago. It's amazing to see. The room is packed. And now we have 4 Death & Co locations across the US. We have 2 Death & Co locations in Australia. We have 3 new, a new brand called Close Company. We have 3 locations of that in the US. And then we just opened our first hotel in Savannah. This year, we're launching in just next week, actually, we're launching our education platform called Fashioned, which is really exciting. Gosh, more important than anything, because we're here in Seattle, we're opening Death & Co Seattle this August.
Go.
So yeah, it's a really incredible time in the company. And you know, as an artist, I had this really interesting realization about 8-9 years ago, where I really thought that the beauty and artistry that I was involved in was the curation of the room and the team and all the little details and ephemera. Now I really think about my kind of creative approach being applied that is really pulling together this team, this ecosystem to try to build a healthy, happy, thriving company where people are excited to go to work, and we hopefully create really memorable experiences on a nightly basis, both for our teams and for our guests. And the goal of all of it, we're growing it all to scale and to sell, hopefully in the next 3 to 4 years. And I had a really interesting interview a few years ago, and the interview, the guy interviewing me said, "So you're growing it to cash out?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm growing it to prove that this business can be scalable and saleable and still maintain a high level of integrity in the same way that we've seen with some phenomenal legacy hotels and other multi-generational businesses. That's what we want to do and build." So yeah, that's it. That's what we're doing, man. It's a grind.
I love it, man. I love it. And you know what? I couldn't help but listen to the way that you were showing leadership for your company in ways that are relevant to how we have leadership as dads.
Oh man.
And as parents. Like, I felt it because you were talking about your employees or, you know, people that you work with. And I'm like, man, like, you could be talking about your daughter and how you kind of go about parenting.
They have informed each other for me so much. I'm a better leader because I'm a parent, and I'm a better parent because I try really hard to show up as a great leader. And I think the most important thing, the smallest, simplest, and most important thing for me is like, we model what we want to see, right? We model the behavior that we want to see. So if we want to be empathetic, or if we want our team to be empathetic or good listeners or be positive or optimistic or passionate, if we want to see that kindness and empathy and patience in our children, we got to remember to be kind and patient and empathetic with them when they're like driving us up the wall because they just won't put their shoes on or leave the house or whatever it is. So yeah, that leadership, the truth in leadership and the truth in parenting, they're so similar, I think. All of that kind of comes back to one of my biggest beliefs and slight pet peeves, in that I always hear people talk about work-life balance. And I'm like, well, sure. And let's just agree that that's just a total misnomer, because I don't have work and then my life. They are the same to me. Like, I have personal time and I have work time, and they often blend between, but like, I show up as my whole self to work, and I show up as my whole self to my personal time. But there's no work Dave and personal Dave. Like, you know, that's...
Yeah, no, I think that's a big one. And we'll touch on that. We talk about like balancing fatherhood, work, life. I mean, you just shared everything about Death & Co. And I was like, dude, when do you have time? You know, when do you have time to be with your kiddo? This idea of like, when we were dads or when we were working, we are 100% in that mode, maybe 110%. But a lot of times, even for me, like, I have to remind myself to turn one side off. So although it isn't balanced, it's just like, we'll stop thinking about this for a second, and, you know, let's dive into these Barbies, or like, let's, you know, play pretend for a second. So it's still hard, but just hearing people talk about how they can like click into like, okay, I got to be in this mode and I'm going to put my phone away, or whatever is like the method that you use, is like helpful. And part of why when I first started this podcast, I was like, I want to set the ground rules where I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, and this is not for me to come across as like the dad that knows everything. It's very much like, you are coming from a similar situation, or guest is coming from a similar situation, and this is how they're tackling it. And so I see it as a way for like me to learn how to become better. And so every time I talk to a different guest, I take some tidbits, and I come home and I tell my wife, and be like, oh man, you know, so-and-so said this, like, I got to start trying that more. And so in the back of my head, although I spend time with the podcast, I always think about like, hey, this is actually just me investing into becoming a better dad because I'm just learning different ways to be better.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I also think all of these things are really, hopefully for me and my pursuit and Death & Co. It's about me pursuing my passion and really filling my cup, leading a very thoughtful and intentional life. And really understanding what drives me, what motivates me, and what brings me joy.
Yeah.
And how I show up, how I lead, that constant pursuit of creation and building and teams and camaraderie, that really makes me a better, happier person. And becoming a better, happier person makes you a better partner. That makes you a better leader. That makes you a better dad. And so all these things that I think we can sometimes think of as being selfish because they are often time away, can help us focus more fully when we are there and when we are present, makes us more fully present. I mean, right now is a great example. Like I drove away from my daughter.
Dude, sorry, man.
No, it's okay. I drove away from she was psyched.
Yeah.
My daughter is pumped because she knows what I'm doing right now. And she was like, she was like, oh, is today the day you're going on the dad podcast? I was like, today's the day. She's like, do I get to hear it? I was like, when it's ready, we can listen to it together. She's like, oh, and she's like skipping and laughing. It's like, have a great podcast. And I was like, that's so fucking cute.
Yeah.
And, but like to get to do this, to have these moments of indulgence or what feels like indulgence, that makes us a better person. And if that allows us to like really put the phone away, literally or metaphorically, whatever it is, then hell, that's worth it. That makes us a better parent.
Yeah, I love that Aria wants to listen in.
Oh, she's so psyched.
My daughter actually sits and she watches everyone with me. And so then when we see people in public, she'll be like, oh, hi, so-and-so. Like she might not have ever met them, but when she does see them, she's like, I watched you on the podcast. And she wants to be on it with me. She wants to ask questions.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, Dad, what did you ask them? And all this. So
I would show up for that. You did like a dad roundtable led by your daughter.
Yeah. You should bring Aria. We could bring them both. We'll do a little session here.
They'd be pumped.
So now we're going into the meat of this. Why don't you just tell the audience a little bit about your 6-year-old daughter? She's awesome. She just had a great birthday party.
She did. Yeah. So, man, some really, I feel like her birth sort of set the stage. I suppose they all do, but she was born on her due date on my birthday, which I just thought was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And so we get to share that every year. We're birthday buddies, which is so damn fun. And as like a girl dad, I think there's automatically that special bond. The birthday thing is so fun, and she's just awesome. She's a super, super fun, energetic, gregarious. Of course we're all biased, but just,
she's the best.
Brilliant, silly, cheeky, empathetic kid. And I think so much of that has to do with us just involving her in almost everything, so what we haven't really touched on is my amazing partner, my wife. We get to work together. She wears many hats, as we were talking about before the podcast, but she is also the publicist and gets all of the media attention for all of our various businesses. And so we talk about work a lot. And so that bleeds into dinner and to social time. It bleeds into a lot. So Aria hears all of that. Our daughter, Aria. Did we say her name yet? Daughter's name is Aria.
Sure, yeah, Aria. Yeah.
I have another embarrassing thing that I'll admit in a moment. Aria hears all of that, and she's very tuned in with what I do and with what mom does. Unfortunately for me, it's a little bit easier to understand what I do because she gets to go. She sees the project. She sees the bars. She pops in on video calls with me. And so, she understands the stress, the wins, the highs, the lows. And when Jenna and I are talking about work, we'll ask her or we'll tell her, we'll involve her instead of being like, hang on, we'll talk to you when we're done. We'll be like, well, this is what happened today in daddy's work. And this is why it was a challenging day. What would you do if someone spoke to you this way? And just, try to rope her into it to make it a full family affair, which, it is. She actually, by way of my dad sort of insisting upon it, owns some shares in the company, even though she shouldn't because she's not 21 yet.
Yeah.
So, and she knows that too. So she's been to every Death and Co. And she's like, well, I am a co-owner. And I'm like, don't tout that around.
That's amazing. I mean, I love that because when we let our kids into the feelings that we have, we offer them opportunities to learn how to show empathy, learn how to show kindness based off of how we react.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that a lot of times we're like, oh, do we want to talk about this? But what it comes down to is, well, the way we can phrase this, we can craft this into a learning of like, how are we shaping this girl into this awesome, empathetic, kind, and confident young lady? I'm all for like just showing them these experiences that you're having that are very adult, right? She's got to learn them at some point, or our kids have to learn them. And we're kind of like showing them how we navigate difficult situations because everything is not always great. And they can maybe liken that into something that might be happening at school or how you deal with people with communicating and all that. So I'm down for it. I love it.
And what I found very early on is it doesn't matter what we're doing together. She just wants my time, focus, and attention. And if we're talking about my work for that moment, it's still giving her my full time, focus, and attention because I'm soliciting, I'm asking, I'm sharing, I'm, trying to get her involved. And she's psyched, And I still, when she was very young, I embarrassingly taught her this like prompt response. I'm a big fan of like tidying up, vacuuming, essentially like organizing.
Sure.
It's so much so that there is a core value in our company called ABK, which stands for always be knolling. And knolling is an architectural term about like organizing things and like parallel and perpendicular and like essentially tidying your space. For us, it means like the life cycle of a task, etc. Two embarrassing things. One, so the core value is ABK. Aria's initials are Aria Berlin Kaplan.
Okay.
You
created a monster.
My wife is very understanding in that I wanted to have her initials be ABK in like honor of this insane obsessive compulsive core value in the company, which is embarrassing enough. And then when she was younger, I taught her, I was like, Aria, what are your two favorite things? And still, if I ask her next time, Kevin, when she's around, I'll be like, Aria, what are your two favorite things? And she'll say, cleaning and working.
Oh my gosh. Dude, you created a monster, man.
And she no longer loves those two things, but she will like go ham. She'll like take the vacuum and like clean the house. Be like, I'm just cleaning.
That's funny, man.
Careful the behavior that you model.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? She's just being like that. I love that.
And and the fun on that note, like if I'm like, I'm just tidying the house. She's like, okay, let's do it together.
Oh, man.
Okay. You just want to do what we're doing. Yeah. She recently, I have like a whole, because I'm a dad in the 40s, I have like a whole espresso setup because I'm just a living stereotype. So now like I'm doing my, fancy espresso nonsense in the morning. And she loves it. And she's really interested because I'm so interested. So she's like, Daddy, can we do it together? And of course, in the morning, I'm like, I just want that first sip so badly. But of course, you got to slow it down and be like, yeah, girl, let's do it together.
Yeah.
We're all
Mine too. She pours it. She does the little thing, puts it in, and it's just part of the process now. But I've come to the realization that when I'm in a rush, I just think to myself, I'm like, why am I in a rush? I could be a little bit late to just take in this like little moment of us doing the espresso together. Yeah. Where I'm just like, if we're going to be late, fuck it, we'll be late.
Yeah. They don't care.
Or just be like, we're going to be really late and let's make a morning out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. That's great.
All right, Dave. One question. I want you to tell me a little bit about your dad. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah. We're all reflections of our parents, right? And so the more, as I became an adult, the more I understood about my dad's parents, the more I understood about him. And of course, I give like the big asterisk to this entire episode where I want to say now, later, throughout, like everyone's better through therapy. I've become a better person, become a better partner, through therapy. I'm a big fan of therapy. I've understood my dad so much better through therapy. And I know, though we've actually never talked about it, I know my dad has sort of secretly or quietly gone through therapy as an adult during our time, and he really turned around and became a much better father. But in the early years or through most of my young adulthood, my dad wasn't super present, but was very stable. He was very steady. He never raised his voice. My parents didn't have a very good relationship and ended up getting divorced when I was around 10. And, they didn't set the stage for me to really understand what love was or what monogamy was for sure. But like I said, my dad was very steady. He didn't, never raise his voice with us or with my mom. And there was, a lot of baseline positive things there. He was also supportive, just at the very least financially and just, by no means kind of a dirtbag dad, just emotionally unavailable, really. And, he was married once before. I'm close with my half siblings. And so I'm the youngest of 5. So at one point, after my parents split, they were both living in the same town, on opposite sides of town. But I was really just living with my mom. I would see my dad occasionally, but my dad kind of bribed me into living with him when I was in high school. And so I lived there for a year. And at the end of the year, kind of unceremoniously, he just like kicked me out and, said, all right, well, that's it. And also just cut me off. And I was like, well, I don't really understand what you're doing. You're not talking to me about anything. Like, this is it. I'm leaving. I'm going to college. Like, this is our time to actually like be together and have a relationship. And you're choosing not to. And he was very closed off. And I was like, all right, we're done. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you at my graduation. And we had a long kind of falling out, an extended falling out over the course of, a year or so. And I know that during that time, he started going to therapy, and he kind of came back around and showed up. But yeah, in the early years, he would say things that I don't think he understood the impact. He said things like, well, I think you and your sister will have a hard time, making a life for yourself, living up to, how we raised you. I was like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so, and even the simplest thing that really but really breaks my heart. I don't think he ever said, I love you, like until I was probably in my 30s. And I think about now that as a dad, now I look at my daughter and I'm like, God, I say that to her. And I don't think it's a reaction to that, but she's like, all right, I love you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I love you too. It's like,
yeah. I've had a lot of guests that have had similar experiences. They talk about this dad connection where they, he may not have said he was proud or he loved him. And, it's very tough. But at the same time, I talk to these dads who are, frankly, the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Right. And it always leads, I always ask the next question was then, how is that the blueprint for you?
Yeah. I think, my dad's kind of closed off, being emotionally closed off, it led to a very clear knee-jerk reaction in terms of me constantly wanting his approval. And I think that led me to be a very good entrepreneur. I always wanted to like show him and prove, and it still drives me, even though now he'll tell me, he'll be like, I'm proud of you. I think he first said that when I was like 40. I'm 44. But, we
got there eventually.
Eventually. No, we have a great, and now when I hang up, I'm like, all right, I love you, Pops. All right, I love you too. Like we got there. You work, you get there. But yeah, it's, the first thing that I needed to see and understand, was the model of a good relationship. Because for me anyway, I personally believe like I'm a better father because I have a really strong relationship with my wife. And so I never saw that in my parents. I didn't see it through many examples, but my oldest sister, Jessica, she and her boyfriend got pregnant in college, and I don't think they even knew each other that long. They got married, and they just are an incredible couple. They have 4 amazing kids. She's much older than me, but they've always been one of my sort of like North Stars or guiding lights for a relationship. And seeing their love and support of each other gave me, faith and confidence that I could find that I could model that. And then from, eventually finding my partner, my wife, Jenna, it took an understanding that even those things or everything that we really care about in life, we should really approach with the same level of intention. And what I mean by that is like, I had this great relationship. We loved each other a ton, but we were having trouble communicating. I was on the road a ton, and I was putting so much effort into becoming a great leader. And I was like, man, I'm not really doing much to become a better partner. And that's when I was like, all right, look, I can't drag you into couples therapy, but like I can tell you I'm gonna go to a couples therapist by myself, and I would love for you to join me. I was like, we have a really phenomenal problem in that we love each other a ton, and we're just kind of missing each other here. So that we started seeing someone, and that established really phenomenal communication for us and allowed us to have a truly open dialogue as we became parents. I realized and sort of approached it that same way. I was like, okay, well, let's talk about how we want to show up, how we want to parent. I did the thing that I do, and I like read a ton of books and started following a ton of parenting Instagram stuff. Instagram was a really big thing for me as a dad. I like the intentional and thoughtful parenting stuff out there. I thought was so inspiring. And this may sound silly, but I also thought Bluey was like amazing. Like
it is.
Bluey,
Yeah.
Bluey, and that was like later. I was obviously like, once she was old enough to get into it, I was like, oh, I see you. And my biggest takeaway from Bluey is like, commit to the bit. Whatever you're in, just be in. Like, because your kids don't care about time, don't care about this. Like, they just want you to be all in, be silly, dance like no one's watching, just be a fool.
I love that, Dave. Now, a great part of that you mentioned was, I know you've talked about your wife a ton, and I know that on this podcast, we talk about wives a ton, or we talk about our partners a ton. So shout out to the wives. Shout out Jenna. She's going to be listening to this, hopefully. But, tell me about, that partnership and like building that foundation. It sounded like you guys really got the foundation right, that enabled you guys to become the best kind of like tag team partners. Because I know that's how it was for me and my wife. My wife went through some serious postpartum, and it really changed things up. And it was also COVID times too.
Did you know? I know our kids are about the same, right? We had did you realize that she was like suffering from postpartum?
I think she was still kind of exploring what everything meant herself.
Yeah.
And of course, as a new dad, fairly new husband, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And if I had to do it over again, I would do a million things way better. But when we were going through this time, we were really going through some rough patches where rather than the couples therapy, we actually just figured out like, well, maybe you should see someone and I should see someone.
Yeah.
And then like we figure ourselves out, and that might help.
That's great.
And it actually did help because it was like, maybe we don't have issues as a couple. We just have our own shit that we're kind of dealing with. I felt like with couples therapy, it feels like it's like one person pulling to do it or another person, and then maybe the other one's not in it.
Yeah, that's the tough.
And it was helpful for us to kind of do our own thing and come back and say like, hey, I had this talk with my therapist and he said blah, 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 and it helps me. And this is how I can get support from you. But love to hear more about like kind of like your partnership. I know that, parenting in general is like, you need that partnership.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Kevin, thanks for the share. Yeah, I really had no idea like what happened. I don't think either of us had a clue how significantly Jenna was affected, like how real postpartum was for her just in general. And I felt super isolated. Like I was doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and she was really just trying to figure out probably who the hell she was again, and understandable. As a guy, I can't even imagine, right? Like, and that's the one thing that I've told some close friends. I'm like, look, I'm not going to give you any advice. I will tell you the one thing that I wish we did was talk to someone through like immediately after Aria was born, because we would have come together so much faster and figured out how to support each other. Like I would have understood so much more. So, kudos to you guys for doing that.
I think that once you kind of like get it, then it just becomes easy. It's like we have such a shared purpose and goal in sculpting this like little girl that it's like so magical. Not only do we love each other, but our main priorities is the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this special moment where our daughter will do something great, character moment, or she says something, and you have this like great sense of pride. And I'll look over at my wife and she'll look over at me, and you probably know, you just have this like pride look, and you guys look at each other and you're just like, like, good job.
Yeah.
Like, good job,
nice.
Mom.
Crushing.
Or like, crushing. And that is so special to me. But it's like, we needed to get there first. We needed to get that, we talk about therapy and this foundation, and then it's like really evolved and just grown since then.
Yeah. Yeah. For us, there was two distinct pieces. The toughest that we didn't get, probably the help that I wish we did, was, what I just mentioned, like that postpartum period where, Aria was also really, really tough for like 6-7 months, like wasn't sleeping, cried all the time. Like she's definitely paid us back in like droves. She's like so happy and so easy and just holy shit. But yeah, it was tough. And we just kind of had no idea how to kind of be there. And then, cut to some time later, I was traveling, I was back at work, traveling a ton. And there was just this kind of consistent doom loop that we would get into. And it was a communication cycle that was relatively quickly understood and really, almost immediately kind of corrected with therapy. And then, of course, as you said, it's rarely about that. There's often baggage that we have together, but more often it's baggage that we just bring to the party already. And so that was, it was really helpful for us both to kind of double down on that personally. So Jenna started going personally, even to our same therapist, which, a little atypical, but like, it was rarely about us when we weren't together. It was about our parents' stuff and, things that we had going on, and that would allow us to come back together. And we still see the same therapist all these years later, and we see her like once a month remotely. And I feel like at this point we just pay her to hang out and catch up, but we still always feel closer after. Like we never come to the table being like, all right, well, we had that fight last week, so let's talk about it in therapy. Now it's just like, I don't know, things are pretty good. I got annoyed at my mom the other day, and it's
just shoot the shit now.
Just shoot the shit. Yeah. But, building that foundation where we can understand and trust each other and come back to that when there are those ripples and waves and points of frustration, and how we have worked on our communication skills together has allowed us to like double down and be like, oh, that's how we want to show up for our kid. Mm-hmm. How we try to show up for each other. That's how we want to show up for Aria.
Yeah.
And that it's never easy, right? Being a dad, being a parent isn't easy, but it's made it so much easier because at least we have that same page mentality of like, oh, Kevin, I understand how you want to be talked to. I understand, like, you get how I want to be talked to. Great. Let's also engage with our kid that same way.
Yeah. That's really good. I like how like we try to do that very similarly, but we also are not above saying that, or like, I guess you can say like arguing with our daughter around.
Yeah.
Because we can have those moments where we're like, I understand you felt that way, and I'm sorry that I did X, and here's how we should get around it. And like those, we keep talking about being a mirror, and it's come up a lot in this, and how our kids are like us. And like, I just think that there's such rich like education moments where our daughter sees this, where we argued, or we talked about, we kind of disagreed on something, and then we like how we got to that solve.
Yeah.
It's just really healthy. And so I love that you did that. But before we move on from this, like, and we talk about communication for our guests, what would be your kind of like advice on like when communication is tough?
Yeah. we've had, I think the best and hardest thing is to talk about it when you're both in a neutral place, right? Because you want to talk about it when it comes up, right? It's like, oh, that set me off. Like, I want to tell you how this set me off, instead of like, okay, hey, so this is how it landed, and this is, I love you. I understand this is probably how you meant it, and here's how I'm feeling. Remembering those therapy lessons of like, all right, how do I slow down, make this about my feelings, and say I statements, and not you made me feel like. And it's tough.
I'm terrible at those, man.
Oh,
I'm
dude,
terrible.
It's so hard.
I'm terrible.
And it's easy to roll your eyes, and it's hard to do the shit. And to have the patience and to like be gentle and kind with the with your partner in those moments when they're the ones that are really frustrating you, can be damn near impossible. But again, having a toddler and watching them go through big emotions, I think, or at least for me, has also given me more patience, both for myself and more kindness, more self-reflective kindness to myself, and also for my wife. Like, oh, big feelings touch grass, right? Like, we see it in our toddlers. They're having big feelings. They're having a tantrum. Let's walk it off. Let's talk it out. Need some time. Calm down. Adults are almost the exact same thing. Odds are that your partner probably didn't have a good night's sleep. It's probably hungry and probably a little grumpy, and it's probably about something else, the exact same as our kids, right? And we see that, and not to put that on them, but I see that in myself, in my team. I'm like, oh, we're not that much more emotionally evolved than the kids that we're trying to parent. We just pretend we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost exactly the same. Like, a lot of times when we get into a little something, and I'll be like, well, how would I respond to my daughter?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I would have been so much more gentle with it. Like, why can't I now? Right. I should be able to. And so I think they've both kind of helped each other. Like, how I deal with my daughter has helped how I deal with my wife, because like, we're all trying to teach the same thing. I'm like very patient and kind and gentle with my daughter. Like, should be able to do that with my wife, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I always come back to, I look around and I feel incredibly fortunate to be surrounded by people that I'm really, really, really inspired by. And that starts inside my house. I'm wildly inspired by my wife. I just think she walks on water as an absolute badass. Doesn't mean I don't get annoyed and we don't squabble or whatever it is, but like, I'll come back to that and be like, I have so much respect for her, so much respect and so much love for her. And I feel obviously the same way about my kid. So like, if it starts with that foundation of like admiration and respect, and then you're like, all right, I can move past these other little things, figure out how to take a breath, touch grass myself, and come back to like, okay, how do I want to close the loop here? And what's it really worth,
All right, Dave, we're going to go into some quick hitters here. Cool. We'll start with the biggest challenge with fatherhood for you.
Man, I think the biggest challenge, the true biggest daily challenge, is being present. And I think that's probably the answer that most dads have. I think for me, in the hustle and my love of the game and trying to build this company, like I live it, I breathe it. It affects me so much, and it makes it hard to be present and hard to not wear whatever I went through during the day, because I just care so goddamn much, and it's hard for me to not carry that through and let it affect those brief moments that I get with my daughter every day. So that's tough. And it's helpful. That's why it's helpful to let her in, but it's probably better to shake it off a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, I was going to say, you do a good job of bringing her along. So
I bring her along. I had a really, really tough email right before I came here, and she just walked in the door. And I was telling Jenna about it, and Aria was so excited to tell me this. And I got down on her level. I was like, okay, tell me about your thing. All right, I'm sorry I'm not as engaged. This is what I just went through. Not nearly as cool as the thing you're trying to tell me, though. So thank you for telling me that. But like, at least acknowledging, like, yeah.
It's not as cool. She was probably line leader at school today, man. Yeah. That was a big deal.
That was a big deal. Yeah, we're growing, or we have caterpillars right now, and they're just forming their chrysalis and about to turn into butterflies. And that is a big deal in our house. We talk about it every day. We get caterpillar updates. So yeah, that's the big deal every day.
All right, Dave, what's the best part about being a dad?
Man, you say these are quick hitters, but these are like you can go deep on each of these.
You could.
You go deep on each of these. The best part about being a dad for me is watching Aria do new things. Watching Aria learn. She's learning to read right now, and seeing her push through, develop that grit is awesome. It's awesome.
I love that. +1 on seeing the growth. Me and my wife, we always say, man, our biggest flex in life is just watching her grow.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, wow, we did that, and like, look at her like flourish and be awesome. So hear you on that. All right, Dave, we're going to go into our this and that round. We're towards the end here. So it's just this or that. Which one would you rather choose?
All right.
The morning routine or the night bedtime routine?
The night bedtime routine, because she's got the sillies and she's a goof. It's good.
Would you rather handle a poopy blowout in public? You probably don't get these anymore.
Thankfully, no.
Or a serious meltdown in public?
I love a challenge. I am happy to navigate the meltdown. And we always come back stronger afterwards. I would always handle the meltdowns. I still always handle the meltdowns. Not that Jenna can't. I love to take it on, and I love the bonding that we get when we get through it together. It feels really cool.
I love that answer, and I agree with you, because I mean, the poopy blowout is like, if I don't have my supplies, like that's a little tough. Yeah, it is. I
don't mind,
but
like, Dad,
you definitely have some growth with the meltdowns. It's like a fight with your wife, right? It's like we grew from it, or we learned, or we got through it, and you're better after it. So.
Yeah, true.
All right, long car ride or a long flight?
Long car ride. Aria loves traveling. She's a great traveler. We just got back from New York, but now that she's old enough to engage with the screen, she doesn't get a screen at home. She definitely gets a screen on flights. So she's just like a screened-in zombie on a flight. She's fine, but she's actually fun. We listen to music together in the car. It's more fun. She's a buddy in the car.
Yeah, I would agree. In the flight, she's just so clocked out, right? She's just on the iPad, but in the car, we're like telling jokes, or mom's looking up riddles on the iPhone, and then we're giving them. So all good. All right, last one. One-on-one time or the whole family?
Oh, that's tough too. I'm dreaming of, and I try to talk her into it all the time, dreaming of doing a daddy-daughter trip. And we were just in New York. Jenna had a work thing, and we had daddy-daughter time for like 5 hours, and we did all sorts of silly tourist stuff, and it was awesome. So I'll go with one-on-one time. Even though I love the family time, the one-on-one time is like chef's kiss.
I agree. The one-on-one time is like, I like spend anything. It's like, how much is that? All right, we're going to do it. Like, heck yeah, we're together.
And also like, you know, her moms, they outnumber me. They love, you know, she's all about like, well, dad's a boy. So like, you know, dad's always lowest rung on the on the totem pole. But when we're together, you know, you just feel like the most important person in the world. That's awesome. Right. It's a selfish answer.
When mom's around, it's like, I'm not even there.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You're like, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're runner up. You placed.
Yeah. All right, Dave, final question here. Last one. All right. At the beginning of the podcast, I asked you about your dad.
Yeah.
The final question is, in 20 years, if I found Aria and I said, hey, tell me about your dad, what would you hope that she would say?
Yeah, I love this. I hope she would say that I inspired her. You know, whatever it is, whatever that means to her, I inspired her to show up, to push hard, to pursue what she loves, whatever that means to her. I hope I inspired her.
I love that, man. You inspired some people today. You had some great answers. Thank you for joining the podcast. I think we had some great conversations around parenting, our wives, and communication. I'm sure a lot of people are going to hopefully take something away from it that they can learn.
Well, I know Aria is going to be excited to listen to it. Awesome. She can't wait.
Hey, shout out to Aria. Aria, we see you there. Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe, Aria. All right. Well, for Kevin and Dave, this is the Rise of Dad podcast. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you later. Thanks a lot. What's up, dads? Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rise and Dad podcast. We hope that you like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, and do all of the great things that help us continue to make great content for you.